Today we're taking Shaquille O'Neal, one of the best centers to ever play basketball. And we're going to be changing NBA history forever by giving his career to Victor Wembanyama, a player with potential to become the best big man of all time. Meaning he'll be going from team to team just like Shaq did, to play alongside several all-time greats, with the goal of surpassing Shaq and establishing himself as the greatest center to ever play. But before we get there, we have to start things off in 1992, where Wemby kicks off his career as a rookie playing for the Orlando Magic, and he'd be taking the league by storm. He had a unique skill set that the NBA has never seen the likes of here in the 90s, a 7-foot big man with handles and a knack for playing around the perimeter. With defenses scrambling to find a counter for his unique play, he'd have no problem putting up a double-double in only year one. And with that, it would come as no surprise to see Wemby already getting his first piece of hardware. Just like Shaq, he would be crowned as the Rookie of the Year, but that wasn't all. Another major highlight of Victor's game was his abilities on the defensive end, where he'd average over 4 blocks a night to anchor his team en route to earning his first Defensive Player of the Year award. It may only be season 1, but already Wemby is accomplishing more than Shaq, and he'd be outclassing Shaq again as he leads the Magic to the playoffs, an achievement Shaq took 2 years to accomplish. Now as he prepares for his debut against the Hornets, he was about to make sure everyone knew his name, because he was using his first postseason as his own personal stage to put on a show for the world to see, and with the spotlight shining bright, Wemby would do anything but disappoint. In the best of 5 first round, Victor wouldn't let the Hornets have any chance. This thing was ending in a quick sweep with the Orlando Magic advancing. But if you thought this would be the start of some Hollywood success story, you'd be wrong. All because of one man in the way of Wemby's playoff run. Jordan and his Bulls were in the midst of a possible three-peat and were on top of the basketball world. Wemby had a solid run as a rookie, but this would be his welcome to the NBA moment, because Jordan and the Bulls were stampeding right past the Magic. Although, even after losing, there would be some light at the end of the tunnel. Following Ring 3, Mike was announcing his retirement, which meant next season was up for grabs for the rest of the league. And even more importantly, the Magic were bringing Wemby some help in the draft. Penny Hardaway was an athletic point guard whose game was already NBA ready. His scoring boost was refreshing for the team and alleviated a lot of pressure off of Wembanyama, who was picking right back up where he left off last season. With the addition of Penny, some of his numbers would drop slightly, but he was still undoubtedly one of the best players on both ends of the court. The Defensive Player of the Year would shift out to Dikembe this season, but Wemby was still recognized as an all-star and an all-NBA talent, and most importantly, led his team to an improved record. And his team would find themselves in round 2 again, with another matchup with the Charlotte Hornets. Now, without a Michael Jordan-led Bulls team in a way, it would appear his path to the conference finals was all but guaranteed, as he would handle the Hornets just the same as he did the year prior. This thing was ending in a sweep yet again, as the Magic advanced, meaning Victor Wembanyama was appearing in his first career conference finals. And with his matchup being a top center in the league, as this series was preparing to tip off, there was a lot to be proved. Ewing was a veteran center still hungry for his first career finals appearance. He's been halted by Jordan's dynasties for years, and this was finally his opportunity, or so the Knicks fans thought. Every major media outlet was writing the Magic off here, regardless of how well Wembanyama was performing. The consensus by all analysts was that Orlando was too young of a team to genuinely compete here, and the Knicks were favorites to take it all. But Wemby was doing anything but letting these stories be true. He would muster up big performance after big performance, and as a second-year player, he was completely embarrassing one of basketball's brightest stars, as he was leading the Magic to a 4-1 victory to completely shock the world. And now the media coverage was shifting in anticipation of what this young promising star can do in the NBA Finals. But waiting for him was this season's MVP and the Phoenix Suns. Wemby would come into this matchup as a major underdog, but he was up for the challenge, and with his starting off 0-0, he knew that he had a chance. In the distant future of this reality, Barkley and Wembanyama are going to co-host NBA on TNT, talking all types of trash to each other, so there's a lot at stake on this finals matchup. There was a major problem here though, and that was the fact that Barkley was one of the best players in the league and already has finals experience from last season. So this series wasn't going to be as easy to overcome a veteran as it was last matchup against Ewing. Barkley would help his team protect home court to kick things off and wound up with an early 2-0 lead, pushing all the pressure on Wemby, who already knew what was at stake. He was competing to get the Magic their first ever ring, but also for our competition, he was trying to get a huge one-up on Shaq, who wouldn't win a championship until 2000 with Kobe. Meaning there was a lot of tension on the second-year star's shoulder, but he was ready to step up. Back in Orlando for the next few games, Victor was eclipsing his previous play and breaking through to an even higher level. Fans of the game were witnessing some of the best basketball ever played, as seemingly everything was clicking at the right time. With 3 straight games at home, Wemby was rewriting the narrative of this series. He regained control and was going back on the road up 3-2. But like I mentioned before, this isn't the same underdog redemption story like we saw in the conference finals. Barkley was back in the comfort of his home turf and would completely crush the Magic in Game 6, which was forcing what would be Wemby's first Game 7. And while he'd have some highlight plays throughout in what was set up to be the perfect comeback story for his first ring, in the end it was Barkley entirely in the driver's seat for this season-deciding game. There was nothing Orlando could do to keep up with Chuck's masterclass, and in the end they would come up just a bit too short. Great run by Wemby and the Magic. Game 7 in the finals. They got so far, so close, but they're coming up short here in these final moments. 20 years from now, Chuck's going to be talking about this every single Thursday on NBA on TNT. But for now, Wemby is going to be losing his first ever finals. And while Wemby might be losing, you can win big with today's sponsor, Sorare. And hang on, before you skip past this segment, trust me, this ad is 100% worth your time. Sorare is fantasy basketball reinvented, as it incorporates the fun of collecting trading cards to create a truly unique and exciting experience. It's super simple. You go into the marketplace to purchase cards of your favorite players, like this Kobe White card that I'm about to purchase. Then you set your lineup for weekly competitions for a chance to win part of a $2.5 million cash pot for the season, VIP experiences, signed merchandise, and even NBA tickets. And speaking of tickets, Sorare is hooking one of you up with a giveaway for 2 tickets to an NBA game of your choice. All you have to do to enter is sign up for Sorare with my link in the description or pinned comment, and then comment on this video your Sorare username. And if that wasn't enough to win you over, my sign up link will also give you 20% off up to $100 in credits on your very first purchase. Honestly, this sponsor was a match made in heaven. Sorare is legitimately the best way to play fantasy basketball for any NBA fans, and I know myself and all of you watching are huge NBA fans, so I can't recommend enough checking out Sorare. It's honestly a lot of fun. I can't even lie about it. Check out the link down below in the description or my pinned comment. Huge shout to them for sponsoring today's video. And now let's see if Wemby can bounce back next season. And a bounce back looked very realistic. After spending the offseason training with his team to get better, it was looking like he was coming into this season with a vengeance. But before we talk about Wemby, we have to mention the improvements seen from Penny Hardaway. He was catapulting his already strong play from year 1, and in year 2 he was elevating to an all-star level talent. And when you pair that with the Magic's acquisition of Horace Grant, Wemby now had a formula for success. Still, at the end of the day, the team's ceiling was all to be determined by Wembanyama, who was continuing to break barriers and push his game to new heights. This year, he would reclaim his throne as the top defensive player, but there was a bigger story at hand. He was becoming the clear-cut best player on the clear-cut best team in all of basketball. His abilities from everywhere were expanding, and he was truly looking like a matchup nightmare on the court. This sport has never seen anything like Victor, and it was only a matter of time before the trophies start to pour in, starting with this season. The first of what will probably be many MVPs for Victor Wembanyama. Great year for our star, but the real question is, can he rebound from last year's finals, make it back there, and this time win a championship? Come the playoffs, at first glance, everything was running perfect for the MVP and his team. They were breezing past their competition, and it looked like another easy trip to the finals, but there was only one issue. Earlier that season, Michael Jordan announced he was returning to basketball in the Bulls. And as you'd expect, in the conference finals waiting for Wemby was the GOAT himself. Just 2 years ago, MJ crushed Victor's playoff dreams, and now he was threatening to do the same here. With his mindset on spoiling Wemby's MVP season, Mike would go out and get completely obliterated by the league's newest star. Wemby wasn't letting MJ stop him this time, and he was determined to make up for last year's shortcoming. The series was over after 5 games, and Victor and the Magic were winning their conference for another opportunity in a championship series, which would end up being a rematch against the Suns. But this time, the Magic had home court advantage, which was compounded by the fact that the Suns lacked a great center, so they were playing a small ball lineup, which was working against other teams, but having a 6'6" Barkley guarding Wemby wasn't working out at all. He was picking apart the Suns defense game after game, and in the process putting up some unbelievable numbers on his way to achieving the ultimate goal. In a sweep, Wemby was closing out a perfect NBA season. He earned the MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, and got revenge on not only Jordan and the Bulls, but also against the Phoenix Suns here, as he and his team are crowned champions. And to top it all off, Wembanyama would earn his first Finals MVP to give him a strong lead against Shaq, but that could be his last achievement for a while. Because the next season, Jordan was playing with a chip on his shoulder after losing to the Magic in '95, and he was having his absolute best season of his career on his way to earning the MVP. And when asked about Mike getting the award, Victor was clearly frustrated.
What the fuck is this?
Luckily though, in the conference finals, he'd have a chance for revenge. But the key word being a chance, because again, Mike was playing like a man possessed, and the only thing he wanted to do this year was to one-up Victor, who was trying to take his throne. The Bulls had to reinforce their roster with additions like Dennis Rodman, but in the end, it was still Michael making all the difference, getting his team up 3-1, and in Game 5, Wemby's back was against the wall late, trailing the Bulls with only seconds left in this match. Wemby and Mike have had some insane duels here early in Wemby's career, but Mike might have this year's up 3-1 in the series, up late in game 4, but Wemby still has time. 54 seconds left. His back door. He finds an open dunk to give him the lead. I may have been speaking too soon as Wemby does regain control of this game late, but there's still a lot of time left. With Michael Jordan on the court, anything is possible. MJ down low versus Hardaway. He's forcing the issue. His lay. It's off. It's off. The Magic at the board. They're pushing the pace. Orlando up 1 now late in the game. 33 seconds remaining. They can extend the lead. Wemby trying to get low post position here on Luke Longley. He does get it. 12 seconds left in the shot clock. Wemby, the post fade to his left. Wembanyama extends it to 3-point lead. With the pace of the play here in the 90s, threes are not super common. So if you get a stop here, you have a very good chance to win this game and extend this series at least one more match. Michael Jordan with the ball. ISO in his pull-up patented jumper. No surprise that went in. They're going to have to play the foul game. Scott Skiles is at the free throw line. Hit his first one. Very good free throw shooter. He misses the second though. Now it's only a 2-point game. Ron Harper with it, 10 seconds remaining. You have to imagine the ball is going to go in the hands of Michael Jordan. Mike down low again. This is not good. He goes for a little tough lay. It's off. Wembanyama to rebound, and that should do it. But it only delayed the inevitable because the very following game, Jordan was putting this alleged robbery to rest by crushing Orlando to put them down once and for all. Now, if Wemby was going to retaliate in a 4th matchup against Mike, it was going to be in some new threads because we are officially entering a new era in Wemby's career as he looks for bigger opportunities in LA just like Shaq. And while part of the Lakers' attraction included lucrative deals with shoe brands or forms of media, the big attraction was teaming up with the young Kobe Bryant. Although he would ride the bench for a lot at the start of his career prior to becoming the star we all know. Meaning to kick off his new adventure, Wemby was now a one-man show, and while it would result in some exciting performances and a noticeable jump in his numbers, it would also mean less team success than he was used to, and to make matters worse, the MVPs still went elsewhere. Jordan strikes again, steals another MVP from Wembanyama, and come the playoffs, LA was looking far less sunny than advertised. Because after years of being a contender, Wemby's playoff run was ending much sooner than he'd like, as in round 1, the 6-seeded Wolves led by Kevin Garnett were upsetting the Lakers. Victor was falling here, and he was starting to question his decision to move out to Cali. But in 98, he quickly regained motivation, with Mike declaring this would be his last season, which meant for Wemby, this was his final chance to get the last laugh against his rival. And to add fuel to the fire, one last time, Jordan was taking an MVP from our star. So come to the playoffs, Victor was taking extra pride in donning the purple and gold and will put his team on his back. Beating the Trailblazers in the first round, beating the Phoenix Suns yet again in round 2, and finally in the conference finals defeating the Clippers, to officially make his way to the finals for the first time as a Laker, which earns him his one final rematch against the GOAT. And while most of their previous matchups would be one-sided one way or the other, this one wasn't by any means, because both players were slugging at each other back and forth. Mike's supporting cast were older and slowed down, and Wemby's supporting cast was young and inexperienced. So it all boiled down to the top 2 players in the NBA throwing heavy blows at one another. The first 4 games would be a complete stalemate, and each player would get a win at home and one on the road to knot it all up. Come game 5, MJ had a slight advantage by playing in Chicago, and with a massive game in his final series, he'd get his team within 1 win of a ring. But with game 6 shifting back up to Los Angeles, Wemby was in turn having a massive game of his own. It didn't matter if the Bulls threw the bigger Luke Longley at him or the more renowned defender Rodman his way. Regardless, Victor was scoring, and by the end of the game, he would come out with 48 points. But that didn't necessarily mean he was getting the win. In one final masterclass performance, Jordan was uplifting his team through their final hurdle together. He would match Wemby with a 40-point game of his own, and in the end, the veteran roster in Chicago would outlast the Lakers, giving Jordan one last celebration over Wembanyama before passing the torch onto the big man who still had his prime ahead of him. And while he couldn't match Jordan in the end, there was still a bright side to the story. With Mike now retired, it meant the following season was all Wemby's credit taken. After averaging over 32 points a game, once again he was reclaiming the title as the MVP of the league, which sits him beautifully in comparison to Shaq, who had yet to win a ring or an MVP yet at this point in his career. Victor was now fully entering his prime and was establishing himself as a centerpiece in Lakers history. He'd helped lead LA to new heights, but he couldn't take all the credit for the success. Kobe Bryant also officially arrived this year, stepping his game up to a superstar level and was beginning to look like a true running mate for Wemby. His numbers were pushing to new career highs across the board, which was also easily the best teammate Wemby has had to date. Things were getting scary for the rest of the league, and I was confident of what was to come. One of the best records in NBA history, the Lakers dynasty, is about to be kicking off. And so far, it was looking like I was right, because they'd easily get to the finals, where surprisingly, the Toronto Raptors were waiting for them, and their dominance they saw during the regular season was continuing here. Wembanyama's resume was proven by now, and he was the best player in the league. It would take a perfectly assembled team to stop him now, and the Raptors were far from that. He was capping off his second MVP season by winning his second ring so far in his career to go along with the second Finals MVP, but this was only the start. The next year, after winning another MVP, Wemby was flying through the playoffs yet again with his new co-star Kobe Bryant. They'd find themselves in the finals again, this time against Ewing and the Knicks. But given the fact that New York couldn't defeat Wemby in their primes, they would stand no chance now on the back end of their careers. Wemby and the Lakers were easily repeating here, and with Wemby getting another Finals MVP, it was already safe to say he surpassed Shaq, and now had his eyes on chasing the title of the best player ever compared to MJ. But there was one soon-to-be very major hurdle in the way of that goal. Kobe Bryant had one of the craziest work ethics in NBA history, and he wasn't satisfied with just helping Wemby win championships. He wanted to be the best player in the world, and he was pushing his game to another level in preparation for the next season, where he'd come out and truly break out as an all-time player and not just a sidekick to Wemby. Kobe averaged nearly 35 points a night in the biggest year of his career. As a reward for his incredible play, he was earning the title of the MVP, withholding it from his teammate Wembanyama. They'd three-peat in the finals easily against the Pacers, but this time the finals MVP was changing hands, as Kobe yet again claimed an award as opposed to Wemby. And in the very next season, the MVP was leaving Cali altogether, heading out to Kevin Garnett, who in the conference finals, our duo would send packing as they coasted into the finals to face the Hornets. As we all know, Kobe and Shaq three-peated in our reality, but here in this alternate universe, Wemby was one-upping Shaq once again by doing the unthinkable and winning 4 straight rings. Obviously, the tandem of Kobe and Wemby was the greatest duo we've ever seen, but at the same time, their personal goals were interfering, as yet again, Kobe Bryant was taking home the Finals MVP for the season, which come 2003, this issue was glaring come the conference finals. The Lakers roster had went through some changes, and the tension between Wemby and Kobe were clearly growing. While they'd still each personally dominate, their differences were causing issues. In the midst of their clashing egos, Tim Duncan was taking advantage with his Spurs, who were cool, calm, and collected as they faced off against one of the NBA's greatest dynasties ever, in the end shutting down the Lakers' success, and for the first time in several years, sending Wembanyama home a loser. In an attempt to continue their dynasty, the Lakers added a couple of new pieces in the offseason, and you can probably guess the outcome. No point in dragging it out. They've been on a dynasty run, winning left and right. This is no different this season with these two big acquisitions. Wembanyama is officially getting ring number 6. But with Kobe taking yet another Finals MVP, Wemby has had enough and was ready to move on. He would be making his way for his next era with the Heat, where he would join a young Dwayne Wade. Wade was a young up-and-coming star, but he wasn't yet a top-tier talent in the league, meaning Wemby had the full green light from his team, and once again, he would become the #1 option on a roster. His stats were greatly benefited by his increased role, and he was putting up more unbelievable numbers like we've become accustomed to by now. Miami was a breath of fresh air for him, and he felt comfortable being the #1 guy again. With a solid young core built around him, it allowed him to excel in all aspects of the game, and as such, his plan of relocating was working wonders, with him earning his first MVP in years. Wemby leaving from Miami is going very well for him. He gets an MVP, but unfortunately, the playoffs are not going very well for his team right now. They were up against the Pistons in the conference finals, and without Wade having developed into a star yet, their deep roster was looking to be too much for Wemby. He may have boasted his personal achievements by heading to Miami, but as far as chasing rings, this stint was starting off poorly for him. Until the 2006 season was rolling around and Wade was having his breakout moment in the NBA. He went from a solid starter in the league to one of the best players in basketball nearly overnight. It wasn't the same terrifying duo that we saw with Kobe and Wemby, but Wade was close to the level of Bryant the last few seasons. With Wade's boosted play, Wemby would see a cut in his production, but at 33 years old, he was still putting up a respectable stat line, and more importantly, come the playoffs, things would be vastly different from the previous year. They weren't having the same struggles they had against Detroit last year. In round 1, it was a sweep of the Wizards, and taking on Boston for the second round, they'd come out on top by the end of it. Come the conference finals, Allen Iverson was giving them a bit of a scare, but in the end, Miami would outlast them in 7, meaning Wembanyama had yet another opportunity to make it to the NBA Finals and add on to his trophy case. And all he had to do was defeat Tim Duncan, who, if you remember, bounced Wemby and the Lakers last time they met. This time though, Wemby didn't have the distractions of trying to outcompete his own teammate, and he was shown why he was a 6-time Defensive Player of the Year. As much as you possibly can against a player as good as Duncan, he was shutting him down. And on the other end of the ball, he would totally outclass one of the best bigs in basketball, which led to the Heat's most dominant series in the entire postseason run, because Miami was blown out the Spurs in a sweep, earning Wemby his 7th ring, meaning he was officially passing up Michael Jordan and now is on a quest to push as far past GOAT status as possible, starting off with earning another Finals MVP this year for his great play on Duncan. But with the rise of Wade and Wemby turning 34 years old, this could be his last moment in the spotlight. The following year, D-Wade was cranking things up to another octave after getting a taste for an NBA championship, and his scoring output was rising dramatically from the previous year. It would actually end up being enough for Dwayne to earn an MVP this year, which is ironic because Wemby left Kobe due to his teammate taking the spotlight, and now Wade is doing the same. Nonetheless, they'd find themselves in the finals again, mostly thanks to the Flash, and it was a matchup against T-Mac and a 7'7" center Yao Ming in Houston. This season, Wemby's age was really catching up to him with a dip in his averages, and it was starting to show here in the finals against Ming. Yao was taking full advantage of the depleted star and would have the upper hand in their matchup, which meant that chances of Victor earning another ring were largely in the hands of Wade, and if he could outdo McGrady. The series would be back and forth early on, with the Heat tying everything up 2-2, and with a legacy performance from Wade in Game 5, they'd have a chance late to take the series lead if they can hang on. Wemby definitely isn't the star he once was, but up only 2 with 90 seconds left in this game, we're gonna need him to step up big. Yao Ming's been a tough matchup all series, but we need him to step up on defense here. Dwayne Wade trying to guard T-Mac. T-Mac gets the screen. It's a moving screen for Scola. That was actually huge. What a big defensive stop here late in the game. Whoever wins Game 5 typically goes on to win the series, so this is a massive match. Wemby here with it versus Yao Ming. They're trying to get it to D-Wade. The MVP down low in the post. Kicks out. Wemby wide open. Bang! What a shot from Victor to give him the 5-point lead. On the other end, T-Mac with a minute left. There's still a lot of time. The Rockets can get something done. T-Mac's pull-up 3. He gets fouled. No way. I almost never see fouls with 3-point shots in 2K. He hits all 3 free throws. 2-point game now. The Miami here in the same position with 50 seconds left. You have to score here, or otherwise Houston has a chance. D-Wade, Wemby pick and roll again. Wemby nowhere to go. D-Wade, his little pull-up over T-Mac. Wade gets it in. He's the MVP for a reason. 4-point lead now for Miami with 40 seconds left. The Rockets are running low on time. T-Mac doesn't have the ball here, which is a little bit odd. Yao Ming get involved. The pull-up from deep. What are they making? It looks like Houston's not gonna foul here. They're trying to push the pace. Miami with it up by 1. There is a 5-second difference shot clock and game clock. D-Wade with it. 1-on-1 with T-Mac. Wemby over here on the right side. I imagine he's gonna come set a screen in a second. 8 seconds remaining. Here comes the Wembanyama screen. D-Wade gets no separation. Wemby kicks it to Jason Williams. That's off Yao Ming, the board timeout. I would have loved to see Wemby taking that shot right there. That was a big shot. That could have been a legacy-defining moment. T-Mac with it now. D-Wade on him. T-Mac's pull-up jumper. It's off. Wemby gets the board over Ming, and they win in a nail-biter. With the momentum now in their hands, Miami was coasting by in Game 6, and their championship experience would play a key factor as they were going on to win another ring, which would be Wemby's 8th of his career. But with Wade earning the Finals MVP, it was becoming clear to Wembanyama he was no longer able to be the #1 guy, and it was time for change. He was going to be joining the Suns with Nash, who he was hoping could make things easier for him on the court. Nash was by far the best playmaker Victor has played with to date, and Steve absolutely was making our stars' life easier on offense. Victor was playing off ball much more, which helped conserve energy as he was aging and allowed him to enter a second prime of sorts. His averages and efficiency would see a rise as Nash was setting him up for easy looks all season long, and this truly felt like the perfect match for a duo. Except the rest of the NBA competition was rising to new levels, and in 08 they'd run into the Celtics super team in the finals. The dream pairing duo would continue playing well together, but they didn't really stand a chance against the stacked Boston team. This one was over before they knew it, and the bleeding wasn't stopping. In 09, they wouldn't even make it to the finals after running into Kobe in his revamped Lakers. Wemby was in his late 30s by now and was merely a shell of his former self, meaning he had minimal impact on the outcome of the series, which would sting even worse knowing he was losing it to Bryant of all people. Losing to Kobe of all people is rough for Wemby. If he would have joined Nash a few years earlier, he'd probably have maybe 1 more ring, like 2 more MVPs. But it's not working out with Steve here, and Wemby's going to be moving on again. This time joining LeBron James in an attempt to chase a ring with basketball's best player. But that was unbelievably short-lived as they'd run into Boston in the playoffs, and again, this super team was shutting Wemby's hopes down, and there was only one thing left to do. Wemby was joining the team that he couldn't beat in hopes of winning a final ring. It'd be his last season of his career, and the Celtics were a perfect fit to close it out. With 4 other stars on the roster, Wemby was able to play a specified role as a defensive stretch and wasn't relied on to score big. They'd easily make it to the NBA Finals, and Wemby had one final chance to beat Kobe. All of his past accomplishments building up to this moment. his battles with Jordan as a member of the Magic, his dynasty run he went on with his now foe Kobe Bryant on the Lakers, the team that defined who he was as a legend of basketball, his quest for personal success he went on with the Miami Heat, and of course his last couple of years bouncing from team to team trying to find a spot he can fit in. All of that to culminate in one final battle with Bryant. But to call it a battle would honestly not fit. Wemby didn't have much say in how this series turned out and would simply play his role, as the Celtics super team were carrying him to the finish line. He was winning one final championship to defeat an old friend, and even though he was defeating LA, he'll always be most remembered for his times as a Laker. And as he concludes his illustrious career with several awards and accolades, it goes without saying, Wembanyama will go down as the greatest to ever play.